Hello, and welcome back to the Stitch Goddess podcast. My name is Elizabeth, and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Elissa Pack, and show notes for my podcast will be found on my blog, which is thestitchgoddess.com. This is episode 14, and I'm so grateful that you came to spend some time with me today. I have some wonderful finished objects to share with you, some works in progress, works in planning, some needle acquisitions, some yarn acquisitions, and a little bit of quilting that I'm starting to do. So I want to share my finished objects because I am super thrilled with them. These are my autumn rainbow socks, and I am so pleased with them. So this is the right foot, this is the wrong foot, the left foot, and these were inspired by Olivia from This Handmade Life. I follow her on Instagram, and she made a pair of socks very similar to these, and I just loved this little braid cable that she made, and I loved the yarn, and so I instantly Instagram purchased the Hue Loco Color Riot Fall Palette for 2018, and I used these, and I think I had spoken about this last time. I think I was still working on this sock, and that I had originally cast on 64 stitches, and I thought that it looked awfully small, and I was concerned about it being really tight around the leg, and so I saved what I had originally cast on the sort of warmer tone sock, thinking I could use it for a matching pair of gloves. And I ended up having to cannibalize that glove because I did not have enough yarn for the cuff and the Fish Lips Kiss heel that I added. And I'm really pleased that I did, because this is all that remains of the Wool Barn Mini. It's probably about 2 grams of that yarn. And so I was very close. I would not have had enough to do heels and cuffs for both socks and the cuffs for gloves. So I was so pleased with how this turned out, because these are some of my favorite colors down here, and these have been washed and blocked, and I think you might enjoy seeing what it looks like inside, because I have not trimmed any of the ends. So there's all kinds of ends woven in. What I did was I knit about 12 rounds in the main color. In this case, this is Harvest. And I then did 4 rows alternating with the following color until I switched to that color completely. So I was consistent on both of these pairs of socks, and but then down towards the foot, where I knew that I wanted to use more of something like this perfect color, I think it's Nightingale, I think that was the color. I just went ahead and used as much of it as I possibly could, and I think I may have used up all of it, because I made a pair of socks, and then I had a pattern that I have saved, I want to say since 2007, and it is from Knitty.com, I think, but it was the Naughty gloves, and so I made a pair of gloves. I'm so pleased with how these turned out, and I procrastinated for years on making these, because I thought it was going to be really complicated. It has a cable going down the wrist on one side, and then obviously the thumb and all the fingers and everything, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just chicken out and make mittens. But no, I decided to stick with it, and I did sort of an opposite. Here the top of the sock starts with the chartreuse green and goes down towards the turquoise, and I just did it the other way because I used so much of this turquoise that I barely had enough for here. And so I'm so pleased with these gloves because I used up every single bit of the Hue Loco yarn, with the exception of 2 grams of Hayloft and 3 grams of Sugar Plum. And these could be used for something fun, like a teeny tiny little striped scarf for one of my son's teddy bears or something. So that could be really adorable. But that's all that's left, 5 grams out of 120. So I am absolutely thrilled. I played Yarn Chicken every single time with each one of these remnants on this glove, and I won every single time, and I'm so excited. And the trick that I used was to, as I was getting closer, I'll just use this yarn. My method is, let me see if I can do this. I stretch my arm out and I'll hold the yarn over to my opposite shoulder, and about that much is approximately 50 stitches with a tail. And so I knew that I was working with 60 stitches around the wrist, and for the most part kind of around the hand. You start to add stitches so it gets a little bit longer, the rows get a little bit longer, but I would get to the point where I had 2 lengths of yarn left, and that's when I knew when I needed to start fading into the next color. And I'm absolutely thrilled with these. I'm so excited to have a pair of gloves, and I'll try it on for you, and it is perfect. As my husband says, it fits like a glove. So it does. They go down as far as I want them to on my fingers. There's a little bit of extra on the thumb there, but nothing really bad. But then again, on the inside, it's I have not blocked these yet. There's just threads everywhere. They've all been woven in, but I'm gonna have to wash these, give them a nice soak, and then trim the ends on the inside. And so those are the 2 finished objects that I have for this episode. And I made my 2018 challenge when I finished this pair of socks. That was my 18th project. This was my 19th project. I'm really proud of myself. This has been the year of knitting where I have really just, my love of knitting has just really exploded, and I'm so excited. And I'm really pleased. I have even more projects in mind. So that leads me to my works in progress. So on to works in progress. The first object that I'm working on right now is my Dragonflies jumper by Joji Locatelli. It's this beautiful bright pink sweater, and I have separated for the sleeves, and now I am just knitting on the body in this lovely sort of cable-y dragonfly pattern, and it's starting to actually look like a sweater, and I think it's a really pretty color. I'm very pleased with how this is coming along. This is part of Joji's Fall 2018 knit along, and so that ends at the end of November, so I have 5 or 6, probably 6 weeks left to go before I need to finish this for that knit along. And so I'm really pleased with the progress, and it's a really fun pattern to knit. You do have to spend some time thinking about it, what you're doing, but once you kind of get into the groove with the rows, they move along really quickly. The yarn that I'm using is Madeline Tosh DK Twist in Sachet, and this ball has been traveling with me, and it is starting to fall apart, but I'm getting close to the end of that ball. The next project that I am working on is in my Emerald Fibers bag with these little stars. This is a really small bag, but it's a perfect fit for a pair of socks. These are the Earl Grey socks by Carrie Bloomer. And I made a pair of her Lady Grey socks, and these are going to be a present for my husband. It's almost mid-October, and so Christmas is not that far away. And so I started looking at all the projects that I had thought, oh, I'll make this for so-and-so for Christmas, and it's, the deadlines are coming up quickly. So hence my 2018 challenge is going to include a lot more than just the 18 projects. So I counted them up. I think I have 7 works in either progress or planning. And since this is going to be for Christmas, I need to get these going very quickly. But I've made these socks before, so I know it's a quick and easy pattern for me. And I am using a little tiny teacup progress keeper because Earl Grey socks. So I love this colorway. This is the Dream in Color cashmere smooshy with cashmere. This color is called Peacock Shadow, and it is a little bit more navy blue, but really, really nice. And I think my husband's going to love these, and they're going to be nice and toasty and warm. So I started those. And then the other project that I started is a teeny tiny baby hat. This is a newborn hat, and this is for Danny of Little Bobbins Knits. I contacted her maybe a few months ago on Ravelry and said, you don't know me, I'm just a fan of your show, but I have some baby things, may I send them to you? And she graciously accepted. And so the things that I'm going to be sending her were a couple things that I had purchased but never got the chance to use because our son was already too big. But one is this darling little baby cardigan, which it is a sweet little garter stitch with a blue border collar, cuffs, and button band. And I just thought, I'd sort of been keeping them as like a little good luck charm with the hope of having a second baby, but that's not possible. So, but the other thing that I kept was this darling little onesie, or body, whatever they call it. But this I realized is like 12 months, so much bigger than it. So unfortunately the baby won't be able to wear them at the same time, but it has this sweet little bunny, just a cute little graphic of a sweet little bunny wearing a blue jumper or little overalls. And I just thought, I was so happy for Danny when she announced that she was going to have a baby that I thought I would offer these to her with, all the joy of a newborn, the anticipation of a newborn. I'm so happy for her, but I can't send something to her without including something that I've made. So I've started working on this little newborn hat, and the color almost matches the blue in the cardigan, and that is it is Rowan Finest extra fine merino with cashmere and royal alpaca. So it is really, really soft, and it's just one of those little mini 25-gram balls. And I thought, I won this as a prize, a door prize I think, at Atomic Fibers, and I thought, oh, I had no idea what to use it for, and then all of a sudden I had an idea. And I'm also going to be sending a little bird of happiness just because it's so cute. So this is a very quick, easy project, and I'm using a teeny little, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's a little narwhal progress or stitch marker, and I thought that was just really cute. And so I'm very delighted to be making something for Danny. She just seems like such the sweetest person, but I've never met her. So those are the 3 objects that I have started. But in terms of works in planning, I have been swatching like mad. So the first thing that I swatched was, this is Malabrigo sock yarn in Mart. So it's this rust colorway with beautiful sort of ochres and blues and greens. It's all very subtle and woodsy and fall-like. And so I'm going to make a flaxlight sweater for my son out of this. And it is going to be a really lightweight sweater. And so I haven't actually washed or blocked the swatch yet, just because I knew that I had 3 or 4 swatches that I wanted to wash at the same time. So that is in the queue very, very quickly, coming up in the queue. Put that over there. And the other thing that I want to get knitted up is actually these two. I'm using 2 skeins held double. These are fingering weight, and I realized that I needed DK weight yarn for the next project, which is a Juliet cardigan. And I held these doubled, so I have 1 skein of the Phyllis sock by Hue Loco in Eskimo and 1 of the Glitz sock. So there is a little bit of sparkle, but it's really, really subtle. But this is exactly what I am looking for. This is going to be a little baby cardigan for a 1-year-old girl, eventually. And so that is really, I just think it's so precious, and I think it's going to turn out really beautifully. I think once I block this, I have a feeling that this is going to be a perfect gauge. So I'm really excited about that. So that goes there. And then I have 6 skeins of Madeline Tosh Merino Light in Lepidoptera, and I had no idea what to use it for. I just thought I'll just buy a bunch of this, not knowing 6 skeins was closer to 2,400 yards. So I'm going to make a Zweig sweater out of this, and so I started the swatching process, and I had bought 2 skeins of Ren & Ollie single ply yarn, and originally I had thought that I was going to use the twisted single, and I had wound it up to go with this color. And when you put the skeins together, they look perfect. They look really, really nice. But once I swatched it, I liked it, but then I thought, I don't know. So the other skein of Ren & Ollie is the Exotica singles, which is 65% superwash merino, 20% silk, and 15% yak. So it is really, really luxuriously soft. And so I added another swatch, or another bit of that yarn. They're both of these yarns are the exact same colorway. That's called Smitten Kitten. Smitten Kitten is a wonderful blog, by the way. But Smitten Kitten, and I was just curious, and I actually really like the way that Lepidoptera and the Exotica singles play well together. I think the other color pairing is fine, but it's a little too cheerful. And I kind of want something a little bit more subtle, because I really think that I want this Lepidoptera magenta to really, really shine. And I think this brings out some of those colors, and it's got tones, a little bit of like a sage gold green and some browns and some rusts, but then it has that element of purple, so it ties in just a little bit. So I think I'm going to go with this. The only difference is that the Madeline Tosh is definitely a fingering weight, and this Exotica single is even thinner. So it's a light fingering, not quite a lace weight. And so I suspect that I will have to go down a smidgen in the needle size when I make the Zweig sweater. So my last work in planning is a Wonder Wool sweater that I'll be making for a friend, and she requested an oversized white chunky sweater in cotton. She's allergic to wool, and so I happened to have some Blue Sky alpacas. I believe it's Blue Sky Fibers now. Some of their organic cotton in this beautiful white color way. I think it's called Bone. And I had 4.5 skeins left over from another project, and I just thought, I wonder if this would work. And so I did the math and had Jimmy Beans Wool verify that if I bought more of the same yarn and held it doubled, that it would equal a chunky weight yarn. And they verified that I was correct. And so one of the things that needle or that pattern calls for is size 50 needles. These things are enormous. It's like knitting with a cigar or something. They're US 50, 25 millimeter, and I'm used to knitting with 2.5 millimeters. So this will be, I hope, a really quick project because it is chunky and it will go really, really quickly. But for almost all of the projects that I had mentioned, the Flax Light sweater, the Juliet cardigan, the Zweig sweater, I had a complete hole in my needles. I did not have any size 3 needles, so I ended up buying some Zings, Knitter's Pride Zings. I've been watching some podcasts, and I think Molly from the Homespun House uses Zings, and I decided to order a few to see how they do. And I originally tried doing a magic loop on the little top knot hat for Danny, or Danny's baby, and I think these needles will be fantastic for knitting a sweater in the round that has a bigger circumference. But for magic loop, the cable is just not flexible enough, and the yarn was catching on the join quite every single time. So I think the needles will be just fine for sort of knitting back and forth or knitting in the round, but not for magic loop. And I even have a pair of double points in the US 3. And I have no idea how I'm going to be able to use these because they're metal and they're actually quite heavy. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I might return them. I don't know. But I did get a few new needles, and that was pretty exciting. And I also, I did order more of this yarn so that I would have enough to make the sweater. But I could not resist ordering a little bit more yarn. And, I'm a sucker for, things that will only be out for a short amount of time. And so I could not resist a Homespun House Return to Hogwarts 2018. But this is her Plump Merino Fingering sock set for Return to Hogwarts. And it is so beautiful. It's so stunning. I had no idea what to expect, and when I opened the package, it was, a gasp moment because it was so pretty, and it's almost too pretty to use. Almost. Not quite. I'm definitely going to do this. Maybe I'll do a pair of Hermione's Everyday Socks. I think that would be really, really beautiful. But my sock yarn box is overflowing. But I've been talking to my husband about Woolenvine yarns and several other different indie dyers who seem to have sort of a cult yarn collection. And I was watching Kristen's podcast a few weeks ago, and she mentioned she was going to be having a shop update, and she mentioned the colors. And so I was online, and I had already put the Wool and Vine Yarns tote in my bag because I can't resist a beautiful tote. And I had a project in mind, and I bought 4 skeins of Footsie yarn in Dead Calm. And as you can see, this is my color. Kristen from Wool and Vine Yarns talks about mauve being her color, and she makes all these beautiful things. She just finished a beautiful Belmont cardigan in this stunning color that would look atrocious on me, but it looks so good on her. And it just occurred to me that this sort of dark green, hunter green color is for me what mauve is to Kristen. And so I bought 4 skeins of Dead Calm, and it will become a Flaxlight cardigan. And I also had picked up 1 skein of the Footsie base in the Outlander colorway. I've seen pictures of it, and it is even more beautiful in person. And originally, when I pulled all these out, I just thought, ooh, that would make a really nice Zweig sweater too. But I spent some time thinking about it, and I think if I make a featherweight cardigan just out of this color, that I will wear it a whole lot more than I will with another pullover. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but it is going on the save it for a special occasion. Maybe one of these will be a birthday cast on next year, but I don't know. But they're so beautiful. And so that's the last in the last thing, the yarn acquisitions for and maybe until next time, probably. But I was so prepared that I was online, ready to shop 5 minutes early, and I knew exactly what I wanted from Wool and Vine Yarns, and I kept hitting the refresh button, and as soon as 7 o'clock hit, when the shop was restocked, I added 4 skeins of Dead Calm, added it to my cart, added 1 of these, and I was done and purchased in about 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes. But in the time that it took me to buy just these 5 skeins of yarn and the tote, I went back and Dead Calm was dead gone. So that was a very exciting, exhilarating 2.5 minutes. So thank you, Kristen. I'm so excited. And I showed these yarns to my son, and he's so sweet. He picks them up and he just hugs them and he kisses them, even through the plastic, through the packaging. He'll just be, oh, I love these yarns. They're so pretty. But then, after a while he'll tell me, Mommy, stop buying yarn. I say, I can't. So, the other little things that I wanted to tell you about are some quilting projects. I mentioned them, I think, one of the last times, and I wanted to share briefly some of the swatches that I'm going to be making. So I just found some time to cut 5-inch squares for these to go with these this charm pack. I saw this charm, I don't know what you call it, just a charm pack, mini jewels. It's by Wilmington Prince Sandbar, 5-carat mini jewels, and this is the Sandbar batik colorway. And so I just thought they were so pretty and so calming that I wanted to make a quilt out of these. So I have 7 of these packs of batiks, and there are 24 squares in each one. And then my husband and I picked out this batik, which is just a really soft, sort of like the interior of a seashell pink, to go with this. And so I just finished cutting all of these squares, and I think my quilting mojo is kind of coming back. I just was so exhausted after the Awesome Ocean quilt, which took more than a year that I just need something simple. So that is just going to be a half square triangle quilt. And the other project that I've cut everything up and it's ready to go is this Tropical Stars quilt pattern. And I just want this to be as big and bold and beautiful. So these are the colors that I'm going to be making those stars from. So there's a yellow, a blue, a green, a chartreuse green, more like an aqua blue, and then a chartreuse and an orange with sort of hot pink and then purple. And this will just be sort of a lap quilt. This is going to be a gift, hopefully a Christmas gift. Wish me luck with that because it's October. So the other thing that I had that I wanted to mention was my Kingston tunic, and I have a little something to say about that. So today is October 12th, and it was a very brisk fall morning this morning. It was around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature basically dropped overnight, and we had a little incident in our kitchen yesterday morning. And so at 4:46 a.m. the smoke detectors went off for the second time in that night, and I hear him rushing around, and that usually means I was awake right away, but it was a huge panic situation. And so we had opened up all of the windows, had the ceiling fans going, and really trying to get the smell of burnt marshmallow out of our house. And it felt so nice that we just sort of left some windows open, but the temperature dropped about 20 degrees Fahrenheit from the day before yesterday to today. And so I was sitting here freezing, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put on my sweater. And so I decided today to wear my Kingston tunic by Andrea Mowry, and I put it on, and it was absolutely cozy and wonderful and warm. And it's the first time that I've worn it. I hadn't even tried it on after I blocked it, and I wish I had, because it is a mammoth. I've only been wearing this sweater for a few hours, and I can already feel the yarn stretching and drooping. The sleeves are enormous. They are way too long, so they're coming down on my left arm. They're coming down past my knuckles when I stand up, and I found that the drop shoulders are basically falling down to my elbows. And this is just after wearing this for about 5 hours. So I really love the idea of this sweater. I am looking at the instructions, and apparently I went back and looked, and I made an extra large. And so the body circumference is 58 inches. I don't think I need it to be quite that big. So I think what I might need to do, if you can see the dimensions, this drop shoulder area is what's causing a problem. And it's supposed to be a tunic, it's supposed to be loose, but this is a little bit too loose for my taste. It is, I mean, I could hide an elephant under this sweater and nobody would notice. It is very, very warm. It is the Wool Days Scout, so it is 100% wool. It's very, very warm. It has warmed up outside, so I'm burning up now. But I love this cowl. I love how this feels because it is really warm. It's like wearing a hug. And I like the idea of this sweater, but I just feel like when I stand up, all this extra fabric is just a little bit too much, and almost the cool air comes up my back. And so I think I'm gonna have to take it all back and reknit it. It only took me 5 weeks or so to make this the first time, so we shall see how long it takes to do it the second time. The only problem is, when I made this, I did a spit splice to join the yarn, and so I have no idea where the balls start and stop, and there were 14 of them. So as I take this out, I'm going to have to just do it in much smaller increments, and I'm still going to make this sweater, but I'm going to make it in a smaller size. And I wish I had thought about that before I cast on, but this is what happens sometimes. So, oh well. There is one more option. Instead of ripping it all out and starting anew, is that I can gift it to someone. The pattern is really lovely. I can definitely make it again. Thank you so much again for joining me. That's all I have to share with you for now. I will see you back soon for episode 15, and with more things that are finished and in progress and being put together. So have a lovely October, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.